Evan Brooks slammed his hand on the bar and looked the woman dead in the eye. I said no. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just smiled like she'd been told no before, and won anyway. Sienna Vale, billionaire, untouchable, and apparently very interested in a broke single father who smelled like grease and regret. He should have walked away. Should have kept his head down, kept working, kept surviving, but the moment she said, I don't want your yes yet, I want to know why it's a no, everything changed. If you want to see how far the story can go, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I know where you're watching from. Let's dive in. The Copper Tap wasn't the kind of place people came to be seen. It was dim, loud in the wrong way, and smelled faintly of spilled bourbon and decades-old carpet. The neon sign outside had been broken for 3 years. No one had bothered to fix it. That's exactly why Evan Brooks liked it. He wiped down the bar with a rag that had seen better days, his shoulders tight from a double shift that had started at 6 in the morning. His daughter, Mia, was asleep by now, hopefully. His mother had texted him twice already asking if he'd eaten. He hadn't. There wasn't time. Evan, you good? Called Marcus from the kitchen. Marcus was the kind of guy who never asked twice. If you said you were fine, he believed you. Evan appreciated that. Yeah, I'm good. He wasn't. The door swung open just before midnight. Evan didn't look up right away. Late-night customers were usually one of 3 types. Drunks looking for one more, cops grabbing coffee, or people trying to forget something. He'd learned not to get curious. But then he heard the heels, not the clack of cheap stilettos or the scuff of boots. These were sharp, deliberate, expensive. The kind that said, I don't belong here, and I know it. He glanced up. She was younger than he expected. Mid-20s, maybe? Dark hair pulled back in a way that looked effortless but probably took 20 minutes. Her coat was long, tailored, the kind of thing people wore in magazines. She didn't look around nervously, didn't hesitate, just walked straight to the bar and sat down like she owned the place. Evan set the rag aside. What can I get you? She studied him for a second, her expression unreadable. Whiskey. Neat. He poured it without comment and slid the glass across. She didn't touch it right away. Evan Brooks? She said. He froze. Do I know you? Not yet. She picked up the glass, swirled it once, then set it back down. But I know you. That's not creepy at all. She smiled. It was quick, almost private, like she was letting him in on a joke he hadn't heard yet. I'm Sienna. Okay, Sienna, you want to tell me why you know my name, or should I just assume you're a stalker? I'm not a stalker. I own the building 2 blocks down. The high-rise. You've probably seen it. He had. Everyone had. It was the kind of building that made people crane their necks just to see the top. Glass and steel and money. Lots of money. Good for you, Evan said flatly. Still doesn't explain why you're here. I've been watching you. He blinked. You need to work on your opening lines. I don't mean it like that. She leaned forward slightly, her elbows resting on the bar. I've seen you around. You work here at night. During the day, you're at the diner on 5th. Before that, you drop your daughter off at Lincoln Elementary. You don't take breaks. You don't complain. You just keep going. Evan's jaw tightened. You've been following me. I've been paying attention, she corrected. There's a difference. Not a big one. She didn't argue, just looked at him with those steady, unblinking eyes. He hated how calm she was, how unbothered. What do you want? He asked finally. I want to take you to dinner. He laughed. It came out harsher than he meant. You're serious. Completely. Why? Because you're interesting. I'm a bartender who works 3 jobs. I'm the least interesting person you'll ever meet. That's not true. You don't know me. Then let me. Evan shook his head, already turning away. I don't have time for this. I'm not asking for time, just one dinner. And then what? He turned back, his voice sharp now. You get bored, move on to the next guy who catches your eye? I've got a kid. I've got responsibilities. I don't do distractions. Sienna didn't flinch. If anything, she looked more interested. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm asking if you'll sit across from me for an hour and have a conversation. Why me? Because you said no. What? She stood, pulling her coat tighter around her shoulders. Most men say yes before I finish the sentence. You didn't. That's rare. Maybe you're asking the wrong men. Maybe. She pulled a card from her pocket and set it on the bar. Think about it. If you change your mind, call me. She left before he could respond. The door swung shut behind her and the noise of the bar rushed back in like a wave. Marcus poked his head out from the kitchen. Who was that? Evan picked up the card. Thick, expensive paper. Her name embossed in gold. A single phone number beneath it. Nobody, he muttered. He shoved the card in his pocket and went back to work. Mia was already awake when Evan got home. She was sitting at the kitchen table in her pajamas, drawing something with crayons that were worn down to nubs. His mother, Linda, was at the stove, stirring something that smelled like burnt eggs. You're late, Linda said without looking up. I know, sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your daughter. Evan crossed to the table and kissed the top of Mia's head. Hey, Bug. Sorry I wasn't here when you woke up. It's okay, Daddy. She didn't look up from her drawing. Grandma made breakfast. I see that. Linda turned, wielding a spatula like a weapon. Don't start. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. She scraped the eggs onto a plate and set it in front of him. Eat. He did, because arguing with his mother was a losing battle. Mia hummed softly to herself, coloring in what looked like a very lopsided cat. She was 7 years old and fiercely independent, with his dark hair and his stubbornness. He loved her more than he knew how to say. You look tired, Linda said, sitting down across from him. I'm fine. You're always fine. That's the problem. Mom, I'm serious, Evan. You're running yourself into the ground. When's the last time you did something for yourself? I don't need to do anything for myself. I need to take care of you and Mia. We're taken care of. You don't have to carry everything alone. He didn't answer. Because what was he supposed to say? That the medical bills were piling up faster than he could pay them? That he'd been turned down for the loan he needed to finish his degree? That some nights he was so tired he could barely remember his own name? Linda sighed. You're a good man, Evan, but you're also an idiot. Thanks, Mom. I mean it. You can't pour from an empty cup. I'm not empty. You're close. He finished the eggs in silence, kissed Mia goodbye, and headed to his next shift. The card in his pocket felt heavier than it should. The diner on Fifth was the kind of place that had seen better decades. The vinyl booths were cracked, the floor tiles were chipped, and the coffee tasted like it had been sitting since the Carter administration. But the tips were decent, and the manager didn't ask questions when Evan needed to switch shifts. He'd been there for 4 hours when the lunch rush finally died down. His feet hurt, his back hurt, everything hurt. You got a visitor? Said Jenny, one of the other servers. She nodded toward the door. Evan looked up. Sienna was standing just inside the entrance, looking around like she'd stepped into a museum. She spotted him and smiled. He groaned internally. Friend of yours? Jenny asked, grinning. Something like that. He grabbed a pot of coffee and walked over. You need a table? I need to talk to you. I'm working. I can see that. She glanced at the empty diner. Looks like you've got a minute. He did. Unfortunately. He gestured to a booth near the back and she slid in. He poured her coffee without asking if she wanted any. You didn't call, she said. I've been busy. Too busy for one phone call? Yeah. She took a sip of the coffee and made a face. This is terrible. I know, it's part of the charm. If you say so. She set the cup down. I'm not here to pressure you. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Why wouldn't I be okay? Because you looked like you wanted to strangle me the last time we talked. He almost smiled. Almost. I didn't want to strangle you. You wanted to strangle something. Fair. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sienna said, I'm not used to this. Used to what? Being turned down, having to work for something. Must be rough. It is, actually. She met his eyes.
Most people see the money and forget there's a person attached. You don't. I see the money, Evan said. I'm just not impressed by it. Why not? Because money doesn't tell me who you are. It tells me what you have. There's a difference. She leaned back, studying him. You really believe that? Yeah, I do. Most people don't. Then you're talking to the wrong people. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Maybe I am. Jenny walked by and gave Evan a look that clearly said, you're an idiot if you let this one go. He ignored her. I have to get back to work, he said. I know. Sienna stood. But think about dinner, please. I already told you. I know what you told me. I'm asking you to reconsider. Why does it matter so much? She paused at the door, looking back at him. Because I think you need a break, and I think I'd like to be the one to give it to you. She left. Evan stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty booth. Jenny appeared at his elbow. You're an idiot. So I've been told.
Three days later, Evan found himself standing outside the elementary school, waiting for Mia's class to let out. The playground was loud with kids screaming and laughing, and he leaned against the fence, watching them with a tired smile. Mr. Brooks? He turned. Mia's teacher, Mrs. Callahan, was walking toward him with a folder in her hands. Hey, Mrs. C, everything okay? Everything's fine. I just wanted to talk to you about Mia. His stomach dropped. Is she in trouble? No, nothing like that. She handed him the folder. She's doing really well. Her reading scores are excellent, and she's been helping some of the other kids during group work. Relief flooded through him. That's great. It is, but I've noticed she's been a little quieter lately. Not withdrawn exactly, just subdued. She's okay. I promise. I believe you. I just wanted to check in. She smiled. She talks about you a lot, you know. How hard you work, how much you do for her. I'm just doing my job. You're doing more than that, and it shows. Mia came running out a moment later, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Daddy. He scooped her up, spinning her once before setting her down. Hey, Bug, how was school? Good. I got a gold star in math. That's my girl. They walked to the car together, Mia chattering about her day. Evan listened, nodding in the right places, but his mind was somewhere else. He thought about Sienna, about the way she'd looked at him in the diner, about the card still sitting in his wallet. Daddy, you're not listening, Mia said. Sorry, Bug. What'd you say? I said, can we get pizza tonight? We had pizza last week. So? Pizza's good anytime. He laughed. You sound like your grandma. Grandma's smart. Yeah, she is. When they got home, Linda was asleep on the couch. She looked pale, smaller somehow, and Evan's chest tightened. He covered her with a blanket and gestured for Mia to be quiet. They ate leftover spaghetti for dinner. Mia did her homework at the kitchen table while Evan paid bills, or tried to. The numbers didn't add up. They never did. Daddy? Mia said after a while. Yeah? Are you sad? He looked up. Why do you ask that? Because you look sad. He forced a smile. I'm not sad, Bug. Just tired. You're always tired. Yeah, I know. She came over and climbed into his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. I love you, Daddy. His throat tightened. I love you too, Bug. More than anything. She pulled back, looking at him seriously. Then you should do something that makes you happy. You make me happy. I know, but you need more than just me. He blinked. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't listen. He hugged her tight, blinking back something that felt uncomfortably like tears. That night, after Mia was asleep, he pulled out his phone and stared at Sienna's number for a long time. Then he typed out a message. Okay, one dinner, but I picked the place. Her response came almost immediately. Deal. The diner on 9th was Evan's choice. It was the kind of place that served breakfast all day and didn't judge you for ordering pancakes at midnight. If Sienna wanted normal, she'd get normal. She showed up in jeans. He almost didn't recognize her. No coat, no heels, just jeans, a sweater, and her hair down. She looked younger, less intimidating, almost approachable. "This work?" she asked, gesturing to herself. "Yeah," he said, caught off guard. "You look, yeah." She grinned. "Relax, Evan. I'm not going to bite." They sat in a booth near the back. The waitress, Betty, who'd known Evan since he was a kid, gave Sienna a once-over and winked at him. He ignored her. "So," Sienna said, folding her hands on the table, "tell me about yourself." "Not much to tell." "You have a daughter." "Yeah, Mia, she's 7. "What's she like?" He softened immediately. He always did when people asked about Mia. "She's smart, stubborn, loves drawing, hates broccoli, thinks she's going to be a veterinarian when she grows up." "Sounds like she takes after you." "The stubborn part, yeah." "And her mother?" His expression shifted, not angry, just closed. "Not in the picture." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're better off." Sienna didn't push, she just nodded, and he appreciated that more than she probably knew. "What about you?" he asked. "What's it like being a billionaire?" She laughed. "Lonely." "Seriously?" "Seriously. People don't talk to you. They talk at you. Or they want something. Or they're intimidated. It's rare to have a real conversation." "That why you're here?" "Partly." She leaned back, studying him. "But mostly because you're different." "I'm not." "You are. You're not trying to impress me. You're not trying to use me. You're just you." "That's not special." "It is to me." The food came. They talked about Mia, about his jobs, about the classes he'd been taking online when he had time. She asked questions that felt genuine, not rehearsed. She listened when he answered. And slowly, so slowly he didn't even notice, his guard started to drop. "Why do you work so much, Ma?" she asked eventually. "Because I have to." "But why 3 jobs?" He hesitated. "My mom's sick, cancer. The treatments are expensive and insurance doesn't cover everything. I'm trying to keep up, but..." He trailed off, shaking his head. "It doesn't matter." "It does. It's not your problem." "I didn't say it was." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sienna said quietly, "You don't have to do it alone, you know." "Yeah, I do." "Why?" "Because it's my responsibility." "That doesn't mean you can't accept help." "I don't need help." "Everyone needs help, Evan." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and saw something he hadn't expected. She wasn't pitying him. She wasn't judging him. She was just there, present, real. "Tell me about your company," he said, changing the subject. She let him. "I started it 5 years ago. Software development, mostly corporate solutions. My father didn't think I could do it." "Why not?" "Because I'm a woman, because I was young, because he wanted me to marry someone he approved of and produce grandchildren." She said it matter-of-factly, no bitterness in her voice. "He told me I'd fail within a year." "And?" I made my first million in 6 months. Bet that felt good." "It did, but it was also exhausting. I spent so much time proving him wrong that I forgot to figure out what I actually wanted." "What do you want?" She looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "I'm still figuring that out, but I think it starts with conversations like this. With broke bartenders in cheap diners. With real people who don't treat me like I'm made of glass or money." He almost smiled. "I'm not that special. You keep saying that. Maybe one day you'll believe me when I say you're wrong." Betty came by to refill their coffee. She gave Evan another one of those looks, and he wanted to crawl under the table. "Friend of yours?" Sienna asked when Betty left. "She's known me since I was a kid. Thinks she has the right to comment on my life." "Does she?" "Probably." They talked for another hour. About books, about music, about the weird little things that made them laugh. Evan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years. Sienna was easy to talk to. She didn't fill the silences with nervous chatter. She just let them exist. "I should go," he said eventually, glancing at his watch. I've got an early shift. Okay. She didn't argue, didn't try to stop him, just smiled and said, "Thanks for dinner." He paid the bill, refused to let her even reach for her wallet, and walked her to her car. It was a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than his annual salary. "This was nice," she said. "Yeah, it was. Can we do it again?" He hesitated. "I don't know." "That's not a no. It's not a yes either." She nodded, accepting that. "Fair enough." She got in her car and drove away. Evan stood there for a long time, hands in his pockets, staring at the empty street. And for the first time in years, he let himself hope. Linda was waiting up when he got home. "How'd it go?" she asked. "It was fine." "Just fine?" "Mom, Evan, I saw the way you looked when you left. You were nervous." "I wasn't nervous. You ironed your shirt. You never iron your shirt." He sighed, sinking onto the couch. "It was dinner, that's all." "With a billionaire. With a woman." Linda sat beside him. "You like her." "I don't know her." "But you want to." He didn't answer. "Sweetheart," Linda said gently, "it's okay to let someone in. I don't have room for that right now." "You don't have room, or you're scared?" He looked at her. "Both." She patted his knee. "That's honest, at least." Mia patted into the room, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy? Hey, Bug. What are you doing up?" "I heard you come in." She climbed into his lap, curling against his chest. "Did you have fun?" "Yeah, see," he said softly. "I did." "Good." She yawned. "You should have fun more." He kissed the top of her head, his throat tight. Maybe she was right. Sienna came back the next week, and the week after that, always at the same time, always ordering the same drink. She didn't push, didn't ask him out again, just talked to him like they were friends, and somehow, without meaning to, they became exactly that. She told him about her company, how she'd built it from the ground up after her father tried to write her off, how she'd fought for every inch of respect she had, how exhausting it was to always be the smartest person in the room and still be underestimated. He told her about Mia's school play, about the way his mother refused to admit she was in pain, about the night he'd almost given up and didn't. She didn't offer money, didn't offer solutions, just listened. One night, she brought him coffee from the place down the street. Real coffee, not the sludge they served at the Copper Tap. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "I wanted to." "Why?" "Because you look like you need it." He took a sip. It was perfect. "Thank you." "You're welcome." They fell into an easy rhythm after that. She'd show up, they'd talk, and then she'd leave. No expectations, no pressure, just two people who enjoyed each other's company. Marcus noticed. "You gonna ask her out? Or what?" He said one night while they were closing up. "We're just friends." "Right. And I'm the tooth fairy." "I'm serious." "So is she. I've seen the way she looks at you, man." "She doesn't look at me any kind of way." Marcus laughed. "Keep telling yourself that." But the truth was, Evan had noticed. The way her eyes lit up when he walked over. The way she laughed at his terrible jokes. The way she seemed genuinely interested in everything he said. It scared him. Because he was starting to feel the same way. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Evan was at the diner when his phone rang. It was the hospital. His mother had collapsed at home. Mia had called 911. He dropped everything and ran. By the time he got to the hospital, Linda was stable but exhausted. The doctor pulled him aside and gave him the news he'd been dreading. "The cancer's progressing faster than we anticipated. We need to start aggressive treatment immediately." "How much?" The doctor told him. The number was impossible. Evan sat in the waiting room with his head in his hands, trying to figure out how to make the math work. It didn't. No matter how many extra shifts he picked up, no matter how much he cut back, it wasn't enough. His phone buzzed, a text from Sienna. "Haven't seen you at the bar in a few days. Everything okay?" He stared at it for a long time. Then he typed back. "Can we talk?" Her response came immediately. "Of course. Where are you?" "St. Mary's Hospital. I'll be there in 20. Tut.
She arrived in 15. Evan was still in the waiting room when she walked in, looking out of place in her expensive coat and heels. She spotted him and crossed the room without hesitation. "What happened?" she asked, sitting beside him. He told her everything. The bills, the treatments, the impossible math. He didn't cry, but his voice cracked once, and he hated himself for it. When he finished, Sienna was quiet. "Let me help," she said. "No." "Evan," I said no. "Why?" "Because I don't want your money." "It's not about the money. It's about your mother." "I can handle it." "Can you?" He stood, his chair scraping loud against the floor. "I shouldn't have called you." "Evan, wait." But he was already walking toward the exit. She caught up with him in the parking lot. "Stop," she said, grabbing his arm. He yanked free. "What do you want from me, Sienna?" "I want you to let me help." "Why? So you can feel good about yourself? So you can add charity case to your resume?" Her eyes flashed. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair." His voice broke. "You don't get it. You don't know what it's like to work yourself to the bone and still come up short. You don't know what it's like to look at your kid and wonder if you're failing her. You don't know." "I know you're scared," Sienna said, her voice steady. "I know you're exhausted, and I know you think asking for help makes you weak. But it doesn't, Evan. It just makes you human." He shook his head, stepping back. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because if I take your money, I'm not taking care of my family. You are. And I can't live with that." "So you'd rather let your mother suffer?" The words landed like a slap. "That's not what I said." "It's what you're doing." He turned away, his hands shaking. "Go home, Sienna." "Evan, go. Home." She didn't move. For a long moment, they just stood there. Two people on opposite sides of a line, neither of them knew how to cross. Then she said, quietly, "I'm not trying to take anything from you. I'm trying to give you a chance to breathe." "I don't need your chances." "Fine." Her voice was cold now. "But when you change your mind, and you will, don't expect me to come running back." She walked away. This time, Evan didn't stop her. He got in his car and sat there for 20 minutes, his hands gripping the wheel, his chest so tight he could barely breathe. When he finally went back inside, Mia was sitting in the waiting room with the nurse. She ran to him the moment she saw him. "Daddy!" He picked her up, holding her tight. "Hey, Bug. You okay? Is Grandma going to be okay?" "Yeah, she's going to be fine." "Promise?" He didn't answer, because he couldn't. Linda stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Evan took time off work, time he couldn't afford to lose, and stayed by her side. Mia came after school, sitting quietly in the corner and drawing pictures to hang on the wall. On the second day, Linda woke up and looked at him with tired eyes. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks, Mom." "I mean it. When's the last time you slept?" "I'm fine. You're always fine." She reached for his hand. "Talk to me, sweetheart." So he did. He told her about Sienna, about the fight, about the way he'd pushed her away. Linda listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sighed. "You're an idiot," she said. "I know. That girl likes you. I know. And you like her. I know. So why are you pushing her away?" "Because I don't want to need her." Linda squeezed his hand. "Sweetheart, needing someone isn't weakness, it's love. I can't afford love right now. You can't afford not to." He pulled away, exhausted. "I don't know what to do." "Yes, you do. You're just scared to do it." That night, after Mia was asleep in the chair beside Linda's bed, Evan stepped outside and called Sienna. She didn't answer. He tried again the next day, and the day after that. Still nothing. By the time Linda was released, Evan had left 4 voicemails and sent a dozen texts, all of them unanswered. He'd blown it. 2 weeks passed. Evan threw himself into work, picking up every shift he could find. He didn't sleep much, didn't eat much, just worked and came home and tried not to think about the way Sienna had looked at him in that parking lot. Then one afternoon, while he was cleaning tables at the diner, Mia walked in with Linda. "What are you doing here?"
he asked. We need to talk, Linda said. I'm working. Take a break. He glanced at his manager, who nodded. They sat in the same booth where he'd had dinner with Sienna. Mia pulled something out of her backpack and set it on the table. It was Sienna's card. Where'd you get that, EA? Evan asked. From your wallet, Mia said. Grandma said I should bring it. He looked at Linda. What's going on? You need to call her, Linda said. I tried. She's not answering. Then go see her. Mom, Evan, listen to me. That woman cares about you. I saw it the moment you talked about her. And you care about her, so stop being stubborn and fix this. What if she doesn't want to hear it? She will, Mia said seriously. Friends always do. Evan looked at his daughter, then at his mother, then at the card sitting on the table. I don't even know where she lives, he said. Linda pulled out her phone and showed him the screen. It was the address of the high-rise Sienna had mentioned, the one 2 blocks from the copper tap. How did you? I have my ways. Linda stood. Now go. We'll cover for you. I'm working. We'll handle it. Go. Mia nodded encouragingly. You can do it, Daddy. Evan picked up the card, his heart pounding. Then he grabbed his coat and ran. The high-rise was even more intimidating up close. All glass and marble and people in suits who looked at him like he'd wandered into the wrong building. He didn't care. He walked straight to the front desk. I'm here to see Sienna Vale, he said. The receptionist gave him a skeptical look. Do you have an appointment? No. Then I'm afraid. Just call her. Tell her Evan Brooks is here. The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. She spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up. She'll be down in a moment. Evan nodded and stepped back, his hands shoved in his pockets. 5 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Sienna stepped out. She looked tired. Not physically, she was still perfectly put together, but there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Evan? She said. Hey. They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. Then Evan said, I'm sorry. For what? For being an idiot. For pushing you away. For saying things I didn't mean. She crossed her arms. You meant them. Some of them, but not the part that mattered. Which part was that? The part where I made you feel like I didn't care, because I do. I care a lot, and that scares the hell out of me. Her expression softened. Why? Because I've spent my whole life taking care of people, and I'm good at it. But letting someone take care of me? I don't know how to do that. You don't have to know. You just have to let me try. He took a step closer. I don't want your money, Sienna. I don't want you to fix my problems. I just want... He trailed off, searching for the words. I just want you. Her eyes widened. I want to have dinner with you again, he continued. I want to hear about your day. I want to know what makes you laugh. I want to figure this out, whatever this is, because I think it could be something real. And I'm tired of being too scared to try. Sienna didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't earth-shattering. It was just right. When she pulled back, she was smiling. Took you long enough, she said. He laughed, breathless. Yeah, I know. Come upstairs, she said. Let's talk. He followed her to the elevator, his heart still racing. And for the first time in a long time, Evan Brooks felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. Sienna's apartment wasn't what Evan expected. He'd braced himself for something cold and sterile, all white marble and glass, the kind of place that looked like a magazine spread. But when the elevator doors opened directly into her living room, he found himself standing in something that felt almost lived in. There were books stacked on the coffee table, a blanket draped over the back of the couch, a pair of sneakers kicked off near the door. It was expensive. Sure, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than his car, but it didn't feel like a showroom. It felt like someone actually lived here. You look surprised, Sienna said, watching him. I guess I am. What were you expecting? A throne room? Something like that. She smiled, shrugging off her coat.
Sorry to disappoint. You didn't. He shoved his hands in his pockets, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked. His jeans were worn, his jacket had a coffee stain on the sleeve, and he probably smelled like the diner. This is nice. It's home. She gestured to the couch. Sit. I'll get us some coffee. You don't have to. Evan, sit. He sat. She disappeared into the kitchen, and he heard the sound of cabinets opening, the hiss of an espresso machine. He looked around, taking it in. There was a painting on the wall that looked like it belonged in a museum, a shelf full of awards he didn't recognize. And on the side table, half hidden behind a lamp, was a framed photo of a younger Sienna with an older man who had the same sharp eyes. That's my father, she said, returning with 2 mugs. You look like him. Everyone says that. She handed him a mug and sat on the opposite end of the couch, tucking her legs beneath her. I hate it. Why? Because I spent my whole life trying not to be like him. She took a sip of her coffee. He wanted me to be something I wasn't, soft, agreeable, someone who smiled and nodded and let the men in the room do the talking. You're not exactly the smiling and nodding type. No, I'm not. She set the mug down. And that made him furious. He told me I'd never make it on my own, that I'd come crawling back within a year begging him to save me. But you didn't. No, I didn't. There was pride in her voice, but also something harder. I built my company from nothing. I worked 18-hour days. I slept on the office floor. I ate ramen for 6 months straight because I couldn't afford anything else. And when I made my first $1 million, I sent him a check with a note that said, "Thanks for the motivation." Evan almost laughed. Did he cash it? No, he framed it, put it on his wall like a trophy. She shook her head. He still doesn't get it. He thinks I did it to prove something to him. But I didn't. I did it to prove something to myself. What? That I didn't need him. That I could stand on my own. Evan understood that more than she probably knew. So what happened? He asked. You made your money. You proved your point. What now? She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Now I'm trying to figure out what comes next. And? I don't know yet. She paused. But I think it starts with people who see me, not the company, not the money, just me. Is that why you kept coming to the bar? Partly, but also because you were the first person in years who told me no. You really need to raise your standards. She laughed and the sound filled the room. Maybe, but I don't think so. They sat in silence for a moment, drinking their coffee. It was good coffee, really good, the kind that didn't taste like burnt water. Can I ask you something? Evan said finally. Anything. Why me? I mean, really, you could have anyone. Why a guy who works 3 jobs and can barely pay his bills? Sienna set her mug down and turned to face him fully. Because you don't want anything from me. You don't want my money. You don't want my connections. You don't even want to impress me. You just want to survive. And that's the most honest thing I've seen in a long time. That's not much of a reason. It's everything. She reached over and took his hand. Her fingers were warm. Most people see me and think about what I can do for them. You see me and think about what I might take from you. That's different. I don't want to be a project for you, Sienna. You're not. You're just someone I want to know. He looked down at their hands, his chest tight. I don't know how to do this. Do what? This. Let someone in. I've been on my own for so long, I don't even know where to start. Then we'll figure it out together. He met her eyes. What if I mess it up? Then we'll fix it. She squeezed his hand. I'm not going anywhere, Evan, not unless you tell me to. He didn't tell her to. Instead, he pulled her closer, and she came willingly, tucking herself against his side. They sat like that for a while, not talking, just existing in the same space. It felt strange, unfamiliar, but not bad. I should go, huh? He said eventually. I have to pick up Mia from my mom's. Okay? She walked him to the elevator, and when the doors opened, she kissed him again. This time, it lasted longer. Call me, she said when they pulled apart. I will. Promise? Promise.
The doors closed and Evan leaned against the wall, his heart still racing. What the hell was he doing? He didn't know, but for the first time in a long time, he wanted to find out. Mia was asleep on Linda's couch when Evan got back. His mother was sitting in the armchair, knitting something that looked like it was supposed to be a scarf, but had somehow turned into a trapezoid. "How'd it go?" Linda asked without looking up. "Good, I think." "You think?" He sat down on the edge of the couch, careful not to wake Mia. "She wants to try, so do I. But I don't know if I'm ready for this." "No one's ever ready, sweetheart. You just have to jump." "What if I land wrong?" "Then you get back up and try again." She set the knitting aside. "You like her." "Yeah, I do. And she likes you." "I think so." "Then stop overthinking it. Let yourself be happy." "It's not that simple." "It is, actually. You're just making it complicated." He wanted to argue, but she was right. She usually was. "She's coming to dinner next week," he said. Linda's eyes lit up. "Here?" "Yeah, I figured she should meet Mia, officially. That's a big step." "I know." "Are you ready for it?" He looked down at Mia, her small face peaceful in sleep. "I don't know, but I want to try." Linda smiled. "Good. That's all that matters." Wah! The next few days passed in a blur. Evan worked his shifts, picked up Mia from school, and tried not to think too hard about what he'd started. Sienna texted him every day, nothing heavy, just little things, pictures of her coffee, questions about his day, a link to an article she thought he'd find funny. It was normal, easy, and that scared him more than anything. On Wednesday, she showed up at the bar again. "You're becoming a regular," Marcus said, grinning. "Guess so," Sienna replied, sliding onto her usual stool. Evan poured her whiskey without asking. "You didn't have to come all the way here. I wanted to see you. You saw me yesterday. I wanted to see you again." He shook his head, but he was smiling. "You're relentless. You're just figuring that out?" They talked while he worked, their conversation weaving around the other customers. She told him about a meeting that had gone sideways, about a client who'd tried to lowball her and regretted it. He told her about Mia's latest drawing, about the way his mother had tried to cook dinner and nearly set the kitchen on fire. "She sounds like a character," Sienna said. "That's one word for it." "I'm looking forward to meeting her." "She's looking forward to meeting you. Fair warning, though, she's going to ask you 1,000 questions." "I can handle it." "And Mia's probably going to interrogate you, too." "I'm ready." "No, you're not." She laughed. "Probably not, but I'll survive." Dinner was set for Saturday. Evan spent the entire day cleaning the apartment, which was a losing battle. The place was small, the furniture was old, and no amount of scrubbing was going to make it look like anything other than what it was, a place where people lived paycheck to paycheck. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor," Linda said, watching him vacuum for the third time. "I just want it to look decent." "It looks fine, stop worrying." "I'm not worrying." "You're sweating." But he was. He wiped his forehead with the back of his hand and kept vacuuming. Mia was in her room, trying on every outfit she owned. She'd already rejected 5 different combinations and was working on the 6th. "Daddy, does this look okay?" she called. He poked his head into her room. She was wearing a purple dress with leggings and her sneakers. "You look great, Bug." "Are you sure? What if she doesn't like it?" "She's going to love it, and she's going to love you." "How do you know?" "Because you're amazing, and anyone who doesn't see that is an idiot." Mia grinned. "Okay, I'll wear this." The doorbell rang at exactly 6. Evan took a deep breath and opened it. Sienna stood on the other side, holding a bottle of wine and looking nervous. It was the first time he'd seen her look anything other than confident, and it made him like her even more. "Hi," she said. "Hi." "I brought wine. I didn't know if you—" "It's perfect. Come in." She stepped inside, and Evan saw her take in the apartment, the worn couch, the scratched coffee table, the TV that was older than Mia. If she was judging, she didn't show it. "You must be Sienna," Linda said, appearing from the kitchen. She was wearing her best cardigan and the smile she reserved for people she was sizing up. I am. It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Brooks. Call me Linda. And this is my granddaughter, Mia. Mia stepped out from behind Evan, suddenly shy. Hi. Sienna crouched down to her level. Hi, Mia. I love your dress. Thank you. I picked it out myself. You have great taste. Mia beamed, and just like that, the tension in the room eased. Dinner was spaghetti. Evan had spent 2 hours making the sauce from scratch, determined not to serve her something out of a jar. It wasn't fancy, but it was good, or at least he hoped it was. They sat around the small kitchen table, elbows bumping, and ate. Sienna asked Mia about school, about her favorite subjects, about what she wanted to be when she grew up. Mia answered enthusiastically, her shyness forgotten. A veterinarian, Mia said. I want to help animals. That's a wonderful goal, Sienna said. Do you have any pets? No, Daddy says we can't afford one right now, but maybe someday. Evan winced. Sienna didn't miss a beat. Well, when you do get one, I bet you'll take great care of it. I will. I've been reading books about dogs. Did you know there are over 300 different breeds? I didn't know that. It's true. My favorite is the golden retriever. They're really friendly. They are. I had one when I was your age. His name was Max. Mia's eyes widened. Really? What was he like? He was the best. He used to sleep at the foot of my bed every night, and whenever I was sad, he'd come sit with me until I felt better. That's so cool. They talked about dogs for another 10 minutes. Then Mia moved on to her drawings, running to her room to grab her sketchbook. She showed Sienna every page, explaining each one in detail. Sienna listened like it was the most important presentation she'd ever seen. Evan watched from across the table, his chest tight. She's wonderful, Linda said quietly. Yeah, he said. She is. After dinner, Mia convinced Sienna to play a board game. They sat on the living room floor, and Evan watched as Sienna threw herself into it, laughing when Mia beat her, groaning dramatically when she landed on the wrong space. You're really bad at this, Mia said. I know, I'm terrible. It's okay. You'll get better with practice. You think so? Maybe. Mia grinned. Probably not, though. Sienna laughed, and Evan felt something shift in his chest. This was real. This was happening, and it didn't feel wrong. It felt right. When the game was over, Linda announced it was bedtime. Mia protested, but only half-heartedly. Can Sienna come back? She asked. If she wants to, Evan said. Mia looked at Sienna hopefully. Will you? I'd love to, Sienna said. Promise? Promise. Mia hugged her, quick and fierce, then ran to her room. Linda followed, leaving Evan and Sienna alone. That went well, Sienna said. You think? I know, she's amazing, Evan. She liked you. I liked her too. She stood, brushing off her jeans. I should probably go. Yeah, okay. He walked her to the door. She turned, her hand on the knob. Thank you for tonight, she said. Thank you for coming. I mean it. It was really nice. It was. She kissed him, soft and quick, then opened the door. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. She left, and Evan stood there for a long moment, staring at the closed door. You're smiling, Linda said from behind him. Am I? Like an idiot. Yeah, I guess I am. Did they say? The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Sienna came to dinner twice more. She and Mia became fast friends, bonding over books and animals, and a shared love of terrible puns. She brought Mia a sketchbook, a real one, with thick paper and a leather cover, and Mia didn't stop talking about it for days. Evan and Sienna started seeing each other more often. Coffee before his shifts. Late-night walks after the bar closed. She fit into his life in a way he hadn't expected, filling spaces he hadn't realized were empty. But there was still a part of him that held back, a part that waited for the other shoe to drop. It happened on a Tuesday. Evan was at the diner when his phone rang. It was the hospital. Linda had fainted at home. She was stable, but they needed him to come in. He dropped everything and ran. By the time he got there, she was awake but pale. The doctor pulled him aside and gave him the news. The treatments aren't working as well as we'd hoped. We need to move to a more aggressive approach. How much? The number made his stomach drop. "I'll figure it out," he said, but he didn't know how. That night, after Linda was asleep and Mia was tucked into bed, Evan sat at the kitchen table and stared at the bills. He did the math, moved numbers around, cut everything he could. It still wasn't enough. His phone buzzed. A text from Sienna. "Thinking about you. Hope you're having a good night." He stared at it for a long time. Then he called her. "Hey," she said, answering on the first ring. "Everything okay?" "Not really." "What's wrong?" He told her. About the hospital, about the treatments, about the impossible numbers. "Let me help," she said immediately. "Sienna, please, let me do this." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because it's not your problem. It is if I care about you, and I do. I know, but I can't take your money. I can't." He stopped, his voice breaking. "I can't be that guy."
What guy? The guy who needs to be saved. You don't need to be saved, Evan. You just need help. There's a difference. Not to me. She was quiet for a moment. Then what are you going to do? I don't know. Will you at least think about it? I don't need to think about it. The answer's no. Evan, I have to go. He hung up before she could respond. Then he put his head in his hands and tried not to fall apart. Sienna didn't push, she didn't show up at the bar, didn't call, didn't text, and that somehow made it worse. A week passed. Then 2. Evan worked himself to the bone, picking up every shift he could find. He barely slept, barely ate, just worked and came home and stared at numbers that didn't add up. Marcus finally cornered him in the kitchen. "You look like hell," Marcus said. "I'm fine." "You're not. When's the last time you ate?" "I don't know. Yesterday?" "That's not good enough, man. You're going to kill yourself." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. And you need to stop pretending you are." Evan slammed the tray he was holding onto the counter. "What do you want me to say, Marcus? That I'm drowning? That I don't know how to fix this? Fine, I'm drowning. Happy?" Marcus didn't flinch. "No, but at least you're being honest." Evan exhaled, his shoulders sagging. "I don't know what to do." "Have you talked to Sienna?" "No." "Why not?" "Because she'll try to fix it, and I can't let her." "Why not?" "Because if she fixes it, then what am I? What's the point of me?" Marcus shook his head. "Man, you're so busy trying to be the hero that you're missing the point." "What point?" "That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help." Evan didn't have an answer for that. Linda got worse. The treatments weren't working. The doctor started talking about experimental options, expensive options. Evan was running out of time. And then, one night, Sienna showed up at his door. "We need to talk," she said. "Sienna?" "No, you're going to listen." She pushed past him into the apartment. Mia was asleep. Linda was resting. It was just the two of them. "I know you're struggling," Sienna said. "I know you don't want my help, but I'm going to give it to you anyway." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am, because I love you." The words hung in the air. Evan stared at her. "What?" "I love you, Evan. I love you, and I love Mia, and I love that you're so damn stubborn you'd rather break yourself than accept help. But I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy yourself when I can do something about it." "Sienna, I already paid for the treatments." His heart stopped. "What?" "I called the hospital. I took care of it. You had no right." "I had every right, because I care about you, and I care about your mother, and I'm not going to apologize for it." He felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "You can't just—" "I can. And I did. Take it back." "No." "Sienna, I'm serious. Take it back." "No." She stepped closer, her eyes fierce. "You don't get to push me away because you're scared. You don't get to make this decision for both of us. It's not your decision to make, and it's not yours to make alone." They stood there, inches apart, both breathing hard. "I can't accept this," Evan said finally. "Too bad. It's done." "Then we're done." The words came out before he could stop them. Sienna's face went pale. "What?" "I can't do this. I can't be with someone who doesn't respect my choices. I do respect your choices. I just don't agree with them. It's the same thing. It's not. Sienna, I'm serious. This is over. She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes shining. You're really going to do this? You're really going to throw this away because you're too proud to accept help? I'm not proud. I'm just... He stopped, his throat tight. I'm just trying to survive. So am I. Her voice broke. I'm trying to survive the idea of losing you. He didn't say anything. Couldn't. She wiped her eyes, her hands shaking. Fine. If that's what you want, then fine. But don't expect me to apologize for caring about you. She turned and walked out. The door closed behind her, and Evan stood there, alone, wondering what the hell he'd just done. Linda found out the next day. You're an idiot, she said. I know. That girl loves you. I know. And you love her. I know. So why did you let her go? Because I can't accept her money, Mom. I can't live with that. Why not? Because it makes me weak. No, Linda said, her voice sharp. It makes you human. And if you're too stupid to see that, then you deserve to be alone. She walked away, leaving Evan standing in the kitchen. Mia came in a few minutes later. Daddy, why did Sienna leave? She didn't leave, Bug. She's just busy. Is she coming back? I don't know. Mia's face crumpled. Did you make her mad? Yeah, I did. Then you should say you're sorry. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. She crossed her arms, looking so much like Linda it was scary. You always tell me that when I make a mistake, I have to fix it, so fix it. Bug, fix it, Daddy. He looked at his daughter, her eyes fierce and certain, and felt something break inside him. Okay, he said quietly. I'll try. But he didn't know if it would be enough. Evan didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Mia's words playing on repeat in his head. Fix it, Daddy. Like it was that simple. Like he could just call Sienna and say he was sorry and everything would go back to the way it was. Except it wouldn't. Because he'd meant what he said. He couldn't accept her money. Couldn't live with the weight of owing her something he could never repay. But he also couldn't stop thinking about the look on her face when he'd told her they were done. He got up at 5, made coffee he didn't drink, and stared at his phone for 20 minutes before finally typing out a message. Can we talk? He deleted it. Tried again. I'm sorry. Deleted that too. What the hell was he supposed to say? That he'd been wrong? That he'd let his pride get in the way of something good? That he was terrified of needing her because needing someone had never worked out for him before? He set the phone down and went to wake Mia for school. She was already awake, sitting on her bed with her sketchbook open. She looked up when he walked in, her expression serious. Did you fix it yet? She asked. Not yet, Bug. Why not? Because I don't know what to say. She closed the sketchbook and looked at him like he was the dumbest person on the planet. You say you're sorry, and you tell her you want her to come back. It's more complicated than that. No, it's not. You're just making it complicated. She sounded exactly like Linda. Evan almost laughed. When did you get so smart? He asked. I told you. I've always been smart. You just don't listen. She climbed out of bed and walked past him, leaving him standing there feeling like the worst father in the world. He drove her to school in silence. She kissed him goodbye without saying anything else, and he watched her walk into the building with her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Then he sat in the parking lot and finally sent the text. I need to see you, please. Sienna's response came 2 hours later. Why? He stared at the single word for a long time. Then he typed back. Because I was wrong. And I'm sorry. And I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, a message came through. My office, 6 p.m. That was it. No warmth, no forgiveness. Just a time and a place. Evan put the phone down and tried to figure out what the hell he was going to say. The high-rise looked even more intimidating in daylight. Evan stood outside for 5 minutes, trying to work up the nerve to go in. People in suits streamed past him,
all of them moving with purpose, like they knew exactly where they belonged. He didn't belong here. He knew that. But he went in anyway. The receptionist recognized him this time. She didn't ask questions, just pointed him to the elevator and told him which floor. Sienna's office was on the 20th floor. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. When the doors finally opened, he stepped into a sleek hallway with floor-to-ceiling windows and abstract art on the walls. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a sharper suit approached him. "Mr. Brooks?" "Yeah. I'm Margaret, Ms. Vale's assistant. She's expecting you. This way." He followed her down the hall to a corner office with a glass door. Margaret knocked once, then opened it. "Mr. Brooks is here," she said. "Thank you, Margaret." Sienna was sitting behind a massive desk, her laptop open in front of her. She didn't look up when he walked in, just kept typing, her expression unreadable. "Sit," she said. He sat. She finished whatever she was working on, then closed the laptop and finally looked at him. She looked tired. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there before. "You wanted to talk," she said. "So talk." Evan opened his mouth, closed it. He'd rehearsed this a dozen times on the drive over, but now that he was here, every word felt wrong. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "For what?" "For pushing you away. For saying things I shouldn't have said. For—" He stopped, his throat tight. "For being an idiot." She didn't smile, didn't soften. "You hurt me, Evan." "I know. You told me we were done. Like what we had didn't matter. It does matter. It matters more than—" He stopped again, trying to find the right words. "I've spent my whole life taking care of people. My mom, Mia, myself. I've never had someone try to take care of me. And when you did, I didn't know how to handle it. So you pushed me away. Yeah, I did. That's not fair." "I know." She leaned back in her chair, her arms crossed. "Do you have any idea what it's like to care about someone and watch them destroy themselves because they're too proud to accept help? No. It's hell, Evan. It's absolute hell. And I can't do it. I won't." "I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you asking?" He took a deep breath. "I'm asking you to give me another chance. I'm asking you to let me figure out how to do this, how to let someone in without running away every time it gets hard. And the money? I'll pay you back. Every cent. I don't know how long it'll take, but I will." She shook her head. "I don't want you to pay me back." "Sienna, I don't." She stood, walking around the desk to stand in front of him. "I didn't do it so you'd owe me. I did it because I care about you, and because your mother deserves a chance. That's it. There's no debt. There's no strings. It's just what people do when they love someone." The word hit him like a punch. "You said that before," he said quietly, "that you loved me." "I do." "Why?" "Because you're real. Because you don't pretend to be something you're not. Because you care so much about the people in your life that you'd break yourself before you'd let them down." Did you see it?" She paused. "And because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I have to be anyone other than who I am." Evan stood, closing the distance between them. "I love you too." Her eyes widened. "You do?" "Yeah, I do, and that scares the hell out of me, but I'm tired of being scared." She reached up and touched his face, her hand warm against his cheek. "Then stop running. I'm trying. Try harder." He kissed her. It wasn't smooth or perfect. Their noses bumped and he had to adjust the angle, and when they finally pulled apart, they were both smiling. "I'm still going to pay you back," he said. She rolled her eyes. "You're impossible." "So I've been told." "We're going to have to work on that." "Good luck." She kissed him again, and this time it was easier, less frantic, more sure. When they finally broke apart, she took his hand. "Come on, let's get out of here." "Where are we going?" "Anywhere but here. I've been stuck in this office for 3 days, and I need to remember what sunlight looks like." They took the elevator down together, hands linked, and walked out into the late afternoon sun. They ended up at a park a few blocks away. It was one of those small city parks that felt like a secret. Trees and benches and a fountain that didn't work. Sienna bought them coffee from a cart,
and they sat on a bench watching people walk by. I missed this Sienna said. Sitting on a bench? Being normal, doing normal things with someone who doesn't want anything from me. I want things from you. Like what? Your time, your attention, more of these terrible park bench dates. She laughed. They're not terrible. They're pretty terrible. You're the one who suggested we leave. Because you looked like you were about to murder your laptop. Fair. She took a sip of her coffee. I've been working too much, trying to distract myself. From what? From you. From the fact that I didn't know if you were going to call. I'm sorry. You keep saying that because I keep meaning it. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. I was so angry at you. I know. And hurt. I know that too. And I kept thinking if he calls, I'm going to tell him to go to hell. And then you called, and all I wanted was to see you. He kissed the top of her head. I'm glad you did. They sat like that for a while, not talking, just existing together. People walked by, joggers, dog walkers, a group of kids on skateboards. No one paid them any attention. They were just two people on a bench. It was perfect. What happens now? Sienna asked eventually. What do you mean? With us? Where do we go from here? I don't know. Forward, I guess. That's not very specific. I know, but it's all I've got. She lifted her head to look at him. I want this to work, Evan, but I need to know you're all in. I can't do this halfway. I'm all in. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. Even when you want to run? I'll probably still want to run sometimes, but I'll try not to. She smiled. That's good enough for me. But Linda was sitting at the kitchen table when Evan got home that night. Mia was already asleep, and the apartment was quiet. You talked to her some, Linda said. It wasn't a question. Yeah. And? And we're okay. I think. Linda nodded, satisfied. Good. I like her. I know you do. And more importantly, Mia likes her. I know that too. So don't screw it up again. I'll try not to. Linda stood, patting his shoulder as she walked past. I'm going to bed. Try to get some sleep. You look like hell. Thanks, Mom. Any time. She disappeared into her room, and Evan sat at the table, his phone in his hand. Sienna had texted him a few minutes ago. Thank you for today. I needed it. He typed back. Me too. Her response came almost immediately. Dinner tomorrow? Your place? You sure you want to subject yourself to my cooking again? Absolutely, he smiled. Okay. 7 p.m. It's a date. He set the phone down and leaned back in his chair, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could figure it out together. Maybe he didn't have to do everything alone. Oh. The next few weeks were easier. Not perfect. Nothing ever was. But easier. Sienna came to dinner twice a week, sometimes more. She and Mia fell into an easy rhythm, with Sienna reading to her before bed and helping with homework when Evan was working late. Linda's treatment started showing results. She had more energy, more color in her face. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, and Evan let himself hope. Work was still exhausting. The bills were still tight, but for the first time in years, Evan felt like he could breathe, and then everything shifted again. It started with a phone call. Evan was at the bar when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Evan Brooks? Yeah, who's this? My name is David Chen. I'm a recruiter for Hartman Industries. We're looking for someone with your background, and your name came up. Evan frowned. My background? I'm a bartender. I'm aware, but according to our records, you were 3 credits away from finishing your degree in business management. Is that correct? Yeah, but I had to drop out. I couldn't afford to finish. What if I told you we have a program that covers tuition for employees who want to complete their degrees? Evan's heart started pounding. I'd say you have the wrong number. I don't. We've been reviewing applications for an entry-level management position, and your name was flagged. Someone put in a strong recommendation for you. Who? I'm not at liberty to say. But if you're interested, I'd like to set up an interview. Yes, I'm interested. Great. How's Thursday at 10? Thursday's fine. Perfect. I'll send you the details. Looking forward to meeting you, Mr. Brooks. The call ended. Evan stood there, his phone still pressed to his ear, trying to process what had just happened. Marcus appeared at his elbow. You okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost. I just got offered a job interview. That's great. For what? I don't know. Some company called Hartman Industries. Marcus's eyes widened. Dude, that's huge. They're one of the biggest firms in the city. I know, but I don't understand. How did they even find me? Marcus gave him a look. Come on, man. Who do you think? Evan's stomach dropped. No, he wouldn't. Wouldn't she? He pulled out his phone and called Sienna. She answered on the second ring. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Did you get me a job interview? Silence. Sienna. I didn't get you a job interview. I recommended you for a position. That's the same thing. It's not. The recruiter still has to review your qualifications. The hiring manager still has to approve you. I just made sure your name was in the pile. You had no right. I had every right. You're qualified, Evan. You're smart, you work harder than anyone I know, and you deserve a chance to finish your degree. That's not the point. Then what is the point? He didn't have an answer. Evan, she said, her voice softer now, I didn't do this to control you. I did it because you're wasting your potential working 3 jobs when you could be doing something you actually care about. What if I don't get the job? Then you don't get the job. But at least you tried. He closed his eyes, leaning against the bar. You should have asked me first. You're right. I should have. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Then stop being mad at me. He almost laughed. I'm not mad. I'm just, I don't know, overwhelmed. That's fair. This is a lot, Sienna. I know, but you can handle it. I believe in you. I wish I had your confidence. You will. Just take it one step at a time. He took a deep breath. Okay, one step at a time. That's all I'm asking. The interview was on Thursday. Evan wore the only suit he owned, a hand-me-down from a cousin that didn't quite fit, and showed up 15 minutes early. Hartman Industries was everything he expected. Glass and chrome, people in expensive clothes, an air of competence that made him feel like an imposter. David Chen met him in the lobby. He was younger than Evan expected, maybe mid-30s, with an easy smile and a firm handshake. Mr. Brooks, thanks for coming in. Thanks for having me. Let's head upstairs. The hiring manager is looking forward to meeting you. They took the elevator to the 12th floor. David made small talk, asked about his commute, about the weather, and Evan tried not to look as nervous as he felt. The hiring manager was a woman named Patricia Reeves. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded him of Linda. Mr. Brooks, she said, shaking his hand, have a seat. He sat. She opened a folder on her desk, his resume, he realized, and scanned it. You've got an interesting background, she said. 3 jobs, no degree. But according to this, you were top of your class before you had to leave school. Yes, ma'am. Why'd you drop out? Family issues. My mom got sick and I needed to work. She nodded. And you've been working ever since? Yes, ma'am. Tell me about your current jobs. He did. Talked about the bar, the diner, the late nights and early mornings. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. And you still want to finish your degree? She asked. I do. Why? Because I want to be able to provide for my family without killing myself in the process. She smiled. That's honest. I appreciate that. The interview lasted an hour. She asked about his strengths, his weaknesses, his long-term goals. He answered as honestly as he could, trying not to overthink it. When it was over, she stood and shook his hand again. We'll be in touch, she said. Thank you for your time. David walked him back to the elevator. You did great, he said. You think?
I know. Patricia's tough, but she liked you. I could tell. How could you tell? Because she didn't cut the interview short. Trust me, if she wasn't interested, you'd have been out of there in 20 minutes. The elevator doors opened and Evan stepped inside. Thanks again, he said. Good luck, Mr. Brooks. The doors closed and Evan leaned against the wall, his heart pounding. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. Now, he just had to wait. The call came 3 days later. Evan was at the diner when his phone rang. Mr. Brooks? Yeah. This is David Chen. I'm calling to offer you the position. Evan almost dropped his phone. What? You got the job. Patricia was very impressed. She'd like you to start in 2 weeks if possible. Yes, 2 weeks is fine. Great. I'll send over the paperwork. Welcome to Hartman Industries, Mr. Brooks. The call ended. Evan stood there, staring at his phone, trying to process what had just happened. Jenny walked by and stopped. You okay? I got a job. That's great. Where? Hartman Industries. Her eyes widened. Holy shit, that's amazing. Yeah, it is. He called Sienna. She answered immediately. I got the job, he said. She screamed. Actually, screamed. I knew you would. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You just needed someone to open the door. Thank you. You're welcome. Now go celebrate. You deserve it. He called Linda next. She cried. Then she made him promise to take her and Mia out for dinner. Nothing fancy, she said. Just something nice. Okay, Mom. I promise. That night, they went to a steakhouse Evan had walked past 1,000 times but never been inside. It was expensive, more than he usually spent in a week. But he didn't care. Mia ordered the biggest steak on the menu and finished the whole thing. Linda got emotional halfway through and had to excuse herself to cry in the bathroom. And Evan sat there watching his family, feeling like maybe, just maybe, things were finally starting to turn around. Sienna met them for dessert. She slid into the booth next to Evan and kissed him on the cheek. Congratulations, she said. Thanks. How does it feel? Surreal, like it's happening to someone else. It's happening to you, and you earned it. Mia grinned. Daddy's going to be a businessman. Not quite, Bug, but I'm getting there. I'm proud of you, Daddy. His throat tightened. Thanks, Bug. That means a lot. Linda raised her glass. To new beginnings. They all clinked glasses, water for Mia, wine for everyone else, and Evan felt something shift inside him. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving, he was living. The first week at Hartman Industries was overwhelming. There was so much to learn, systems, protocols, people's names, and Evan felt like he was constantly playing catch-up. But Patricia was patient. She walked him through everything, answered his questions without making him feel stupid, and gave him projects that challenged him without crushing him. You're doing well, she said at the end of his first week. Better than I expected, honestly. Thanks. I'm trying. It shows. Keep it up. He left work that day feeling lighter than he had in months. The paycheck was better, not amazing, but better. Enough that he could cut back on his other jobs, enough that he could breathe. Sienna was waiting for him outside the building. Surprise, she said. What are you doing here? Taking you to dinner, to celebrate. I look like hell. You look fine. Come on. She took him to a small Italian place a few blocks away. They sat in a corner booth, and she ordered wine without looking at the menu. So? She said. How was it? Good. Overwhelming, but good. I'm glad. Thank you. For everything. You already thanked me. I know, but I'm saying it again. She reached across the table and took his hand. You're going to do great things, Evan. I know it. I hope so. I don't hope. I know. He smiled. You're very confident. Only about the things that matter. They ate slowly, talking about everything and nothing. And when the check came, Sienna grabbed it before he could. No, this one's on me. Sienna, Evan, let me do this, please. He sighed. Fine, but next time I'm paying. Deal. They walked back to her car, hands linked, and she drove him home. When they pulled up outside his building, she turned to him. I'm really proud of you, she said. I know. You keep saying that. Because it's true. He kissed her, long and slow and full of everything he couldn't say. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. I love you, he said. I love you too. He got out of the car and watched her drive away, feeling like the luckiest man in the world. But in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered that it was too good to last. He tried to ignore it. He really did. The voice turned out to be right. It happened 3 months in. Evan was settling into his new routine, working at Hartman during the day, spending evenings with Mia and Linda, seeing Sienna whenever their schedules aligned. He'd cut down to just one other job, weekend shifts at the bar, because Marcus had begged him not to quit entirely, and because he liked the extra cushion in his bank account. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good, better than it had been in years. And then Patricia called him into her office on a Tuesday afternoon. Close the door, she said. He did, his stomach already sinking. Her tone was off, clipped, professional in a way that felt like bad news. Sit down, Evan. He sat. She folded her hands on her desk and looked at him directly. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. What's your relationship with Sienna Vale? His heart stopped. She's my girlfriend. And did she help you get this job? She recommended me for the interview, but I got the job on my own merit. Patricia nodded slowly. I believe you, but we have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where corporate found out about your connection to Ms. Vale and is now questioning whether the hire was legitimate or a favor. It wasn't a favor. I interviewed. You offered me the position. Sienna didn't. I know that. You know that. But appearances matter, Evan. And right now, it looks like you got this job because you're dating someone with influence. He felt like he'd been punched. So what are you saying? I'm saying that HR wants to review your hire. They're looking at your performance, your qualifications, everything. And if they determine there was any impropriety, they'll have to let you go. There wasn't any impropriety. I know, but that doesn't mean they won't find a reason to end your employment anyway. Cover their asses, protect the company reputation. You know how it is. He did know, and it made him furious. How long do I have? He asked. They'll make a decision by the end of the week. 4 days. He had 4 days to wait and see if everything he'd worked for was going to disappear because someone decided his relationship was a conflict of interest. Thank you for telling me, he said. For what it's worth, I think this is bullshit. You've been an excellent employee, but my opinion doesn't carry as much weight as I'd like. He stood. I appreciate that. Evan? He turned back. Regardless of what happens, you should be proud of what you've accomplished here. Don't let anyone take that from you. He nodded and left her office, his hands shaking. By the time he got to his desk, his phone was already buzzing. Sienna, can we talk? He didn't answer, just grabbed his jacket and left. He drove. Didn't know where he was going, just needed to move. He ended up at the park where he and Sienna had sat on that bench, back when things were simpler. His phone kept buzzing, texts from Sienna, a call from Marcus, another text from Sienna. He turned the phone off and sat on the same bench, staring at the fountain that still didn't work. Everything he'd been afraid of was happening. He'd let someone in, let himself depend on her, and now it was all falling apart. Because, of course, it was. That's what happened when you stopped doing everything yourself. Someone else screwed it up for you. He sat there for 2 hours, watched the sun drop lower in the sky, watched people walk by, living their lives, oblivious to the fact that his was crumbling. When he finally turned his phone back on, there were 14 missed calls and twice as many texts. He called Sienna. She answered before the first ring finished. Where are you? At the park. I'm coming. No, don't. I need to think. Evan, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I didn't think. That's the problem, isn't it? You didn't think. Silence. I'm trying to fix this, she said finally. I'm calling everyone I know at Hartman, making sure they understand. Stop. What? Stop trying to fix it. You've done enough. Evan, I mean it, Sienna. Every time you try to help, it makes things worse. You got me the interview, and now they think I didn't earn the job. You paid for my mom's treatment, and I still feel like I owe you something I can't repay. You keep trying to save me, and I keep losing pieces of myself. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. He could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, shaky, uneven. So what are you saying? She asked. I don't know. I need space. Space. Yeah. For how long? I don't know that either. Evan, please don't do this. Let's just talk. I can't. Not right now. He hung up before she could respond. Then he sat there staring at the phone, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. He didn't go home. Couldn't face Linda's questions or Mia's hopeful eyes. Instead, he went to the bar. Marcus took one look at him and poured a whiskey without asking. Rough day, Marcus said. You could say that. Want to talk about it? Not really. Marcus nodded and left him alone. Evan sat at the end of the bar, nursing his drink, watching the regulars filter in. People with their own problems, their own struggles. At least none of them had screwed up their lives by falling for someone out of their league. His phone buzzed. Another text from Sienna. Please talk to me. He turned the phone face down and ordered another drink. By the time he finally left, it was past midnight. He drove home slowly, taking the long way, dreading the conversation he was going to have with Linda. But when he walked in, she was already asleep. So was Mia. The apartment was quiet, dark. He went to his room, lay down fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. The next 3 days were hell. Evan went to work, did his job, and avoided everyone. Patricia gave him space. His coworkers whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. Sienna texted constantly. He didn't answer. On Thursday night, Linda cornered him in the kitchen. Okay, that's enough, she said. What? You've been moping around for 3 days. What happened? He told her. About the job, about HR, about the fight with Sienna. Linda listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sighed. You're an idiot, she said. Thanks, Mom. I'm serious. That girl has done nothing but try to help you, and you're punishing her for it. She's making things worse. No, she's not. You're making things worse by refusing to accept that sometimes people do nice things without expecting anything in return. That's not. It is. And you need to stop acting like accepting help is some kind of weakness. It's not. It's just being human. I can't lose this job, Mom. I know, but pushing away the woman you love isn't going to save it. She walked away, leaving him standing in the kitchen feeling like the worst son, father, and boyfriend in the world. Mia appeared in the doorway, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. Is Sienna coming back? She asked. I don't know, Bug. Did you make her mad again? Yeah, I think I did. Then you should say you're sorry. It's more complicated than that. She walked over and hugged him around the waist. I miss her, Daddy. His throat tightened. I know. I miss her too. Then fix it. If only it were that simple. The call came Friday afternoon. Patricia's assistant knocked on his desk. She wants to see you, she said. Evan stood, his legs unsteady, and walked to Patricia's office. She was standing by the window when he walked in. She turned when she heard him. Close the door, she said. He did. HR made their decision, she said. He braced himself. You're keeping the job. He blinked. What? They reviewed everything. Your performance, your qualifications, the interview process. They determined that while the initial recommendation came from Ms. Vale, the hiring decision was based entirely on merit. You earned this position, Evan. No one can say otherwise. Relief flooded through him so fast he almost staggered. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You did the work. He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. That said, Patricia continued, you need to be careful. People are going to be watching you now, waiting for you to screw up so they can say you didn't deserve to be here. Don't give them the satisfaction. I won't. Good. Now get back to work. He left her office in a daze, made it back to his desk and sat down, his hands shaking. He'd kept the job. He was still here, and he'd pushed away the one person who'd believed in him enough to give him the chance. He pulled out his phone and stared at Sienna's last text. "I love you. Please don't shut me out." He typed out a response. "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" The 3 dots appeared immediately. "Yes." "Where?" "My place." "Tonight?" "I'll be there." He put the phone down and took a deep breath. Now he just had to figure out what the hell to say. Sienna arrived at 7. Evan had spent the last 2 hours cleaning the apartment, rehearsing what he was going to say, and generally panicking. Linda had taken Mia to a movie, giving them space. The apartment felt too quiet without them. He opened the door, and there she was. She looked tired, sad, but she was here. "Hi," he said. "Hi. Come in." She stepped inside, and he closed the door behind her. They stood there for a moment, not quite looking at each other. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "You keep saying that, because I keep meaning it. Evan, no, let me finish. I screwed up, again. I pushed you away because I was scared, and I hurt you, and I'm sorry." She crossed her arms. "Do you know what the last 3 days have been like for me? I can imagine." "No, you can't. I thought I'd lost you. I thought you were done with me, and I didn't know how to fix it." "You didn't need to fix it. I did." "And did you?" He looked at her, really looked at her. "I'm trying, but I need you to understand something." "What?" "I've spent my whole life being afraid. Afraid of failing. Afraid of not being enough. Afraid of letting people down. And when you came into my life, I was afraid of that too. Afraid that I couldn't be what you needed. That I'd mess it up. That you'd realize I wasn't worth the trouble. Evan? And every time you tried to help, it felt like proof that I was right. That I couldn't do it on my own. That I needed you to fix my life because I couldn't fix it myself. That's not why I did those things. I know, but that's how it felt." She stepped closer. "So what do we do now?" "I don't know, but I know I don't want to lose you. I know that the last 3 days have been the worst I've had in a long time, and it's because you weren't in them. I don't want to lose you either. Then help me figure this out. Help me learn how to let you in without feeling like I'm giving up control." She reached for his hand. "Okay, we'll figure it out together." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. She pressed her face against his chest, and he felt her shaking. "I was so scared," she whispered. "Me too." They stood like that for a long time. When they finally pulled apart, her eyes were red. "I got to keep the job," he said. Her face lit up. "You did?" "Yeah, HR cleared me, said I earned it. Because you did. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." He kissed her, soft and slow and full of everything he'd been too afraid to say. "I love you," he said when they pulled apart. "I love you too. I'm going to mess this up sometimes." "I know, so will I. But we'll figure it out." "Yeah, we will." Things weren't perfect after that. They still fought sometimes. He still got defensive when she tried to help. She still pushed too hard when she should have stepped back. But they talked about it, worked through it. And slowly, painfully, they learned how to be together without losing themselves. Evan started his classes again. Hartman's tuition program covered most of it, and he chipped away at his degree one course at a time. It was slow, exhausting, but it was progress. Linda's treatments continued. She had good days and bad days, but she was stable. The doctors talked about remission in cautious tones, and Linda started planning for the future again. Mia thrived. She and Sienna became inseparable. Sienna took her to museums, to the zoo, to bookstores where Mia would spend hours picking out new novels. Evan would find them curled up on the couch together, reading, and his chest would ache with how much he loved them both. And somewhere along the way, the fear started to fade. Not all of it. Probably never all of it. But enough that he could breathe, enough that he could let himself be happy. 6 months after the HR scare, Evan finished his degree. He walked across the stage at graduation in a rented cap and gown, with Linda and Mia cheering from the audience and Sienna recording the whole thing on her phone. When he got his diploma, Mia screamed so loud people 3 rows back turned to look. Afterward, they went to dinner at the same steakhouse where they'd celebrated his new job. Mia ordered the biggest dessert on the menu. Linda cried again, and Sienna held his hand under the table, her thumb tracing circles on his palm. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." "Me too." Later that night, after Linda and Mia had gone to bed, Evan and Sienna sat on the couch in his apartment. She was leaning against him, her head on his shoulder, and he was playing with her hair. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything." "Where do you see this going?" He smiled. "This?" "Us." "I don't know. Forward, I guess." She lifted her head to look at him. "That's what you said last time. And I meant it then too." "Evan." He kissed her forehead. "I see us building something real, something that lasts. I see you with Mia and my mom, and I can't imagine them without you. I see myself waking up next to you for the rest of my life, if you'll let me." Her eyes widened. "Are you?" "Not yet, but someday, when I can do it right, when I can give you the proposal you deserve." She kissed him, hard and desperate and full of everything they'd fought for. "I don't need perfect," she said when they pulled apart. "I just need you. You have me, completely." "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." "Neither am I." They sat there together, the city lights streaming through the window, and Evan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. There were still bills to pay, still challenges to face, still moments when he wanted to run. But he didn't run, because he had something worth staying for. He had Sienna. He had Mia. He had Linda. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't just surviving. He was building something that mattered. So, a few weeks later, Patricia called him into her office again. "Close the door," she said. He did, his stomach tightening. Even after everything, that phrase still made him nervous. "Relax, Issa," she said, seeing his face. "It's good news this time." "Okay. We're promoting you, assistant manager. It comes with a raise and more responsibility. You interested?" He stared at her. "Are you serious?" "Completely. You've earned it, Evan. You've worked hard, learned fast, and proven yourself over and over. The position is yours if you want it." "I want it." She smiled. "Good. You start next month. Congratulations." He left her office in a daze, pulled out his phone and called Sienna. "Hey," she said. "What's up?" "I got promoted." She screamed again. "That's amazing. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks. I couldn't have—" Don't say you couldn't have done it without me. You did this, Evan, all of it." He smiled. "Okay, I did this." "Damn right you did. Now let's celebrate. Dinner tonight?" "Can't. I'm taking Mia and my mom out." "Then tomorrow?" "Tomorrow sounds perfect. I love you." "I love you too." He hung up and stood there, his heart full. Everything he'd been afraid of, needing someone, depending on someone, letting someone see him at his worst, had happened. And he'd survived it. More than that, he'd grown from it. Sienna hadn't saved him. She'd just been there while he saved himself. And that made all the difference. That night, over dinner with Mia and Linda, he told them the news. Mia hugged him so hard she nearly knocked him over. Linda cried. Again. "I knew you could do it," Linda said. "Thanks, Mom." "I mean it. I've always known you were capable of great things. I just had to wait for you to believe it too." "I'm getting there." "You're already there, sweetheart. You just don't see it yet." Mia climbed into his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I'm proud of you, Daddy." "Thanks, Bug. That means everything. Does this mean we can get a dog now?" He laughed. "Maybe. Someday." "Promise?" "I promise I'll think about it." "Good enough." They finished dinner and Evan tucked Mia into bed. She made him read 3 stories instead of the usual 2, and he didn't mind. When he finally turned off the light and closed her door, Linda was waiting in the hallway. "You're happy," she said. "Yeah, I am." "Good. You deserve it." "I don't know about that." "I do. You've worked harder than anyone I know, and you've never given up. Even when things were impossible, you kept going.
That's worth celebrating. Thanks, Mom. She hugged him. I love you, sweetheart. Don't forget that. I won't. That night, he lay in bed thinking about everything that had changed. The job, the degree, Sienna, the future that was finally starting to look brighter. And for the first time in as long as he could remember, he fell asleep without worrying about tomorrow. Because tomorrow was going to be okay. He was going to make sure of it. 2 years passed like pages turning in a book Evan never thought he'd get to finish. Linda went into remission. The doctors used that word carefully, always hedging, always reminding them that nothing was guaranteed. But she'd been clear for 18 months, and she'd stopped looking over her shoulder waiting for the cancer to come back. She'd started volunteering at the community center, teaching knitting classes to anyone patient enough to untangle her chaotic instructions. She laughed more, complained less. And every time Evan looked at her, he felt grateful in a way that still sometimes made his chest tight. Mia was 9 now, louder and smarter and more stubborn than ever. She'd decided she wanted to be a marine biologist instead of a veterinarian, which meant Evan's apartment was now full of books about oceans and documentaries about sharks playing on repeat. She'd made honor roll twice. She had friends who came over for sleepovers and left glitter all over the furniture. And she adored Sienna with a fierceness that sometimes surprised him. Evan had been promoted twice more at Hartman. He was managing a team now, leading projects, making decisions that actually mattered. The work was hard, but it was the kind of hard that felt like building something instead of just surviving. He'd paid off most of his debts. He had savings. Not a lot, but enough that he didn't panic every time an unexpected bill showed up. And Sienna was still there. Through all of it. Through the late nights when he was stressed about work, through the fights they still had when his pride got in the way, through the quiet evenings when they just existed together without needing to fill the silence. She fit into his life in a way he'd stopped questioning. She was family now. Not because she'd forced her way in, but because she'd proven, over and over, that she wasn't going anywhere. But there was still one thing Evan hadn't done. He hadn't asked her to marry him. Not because he didn't want to. He'd known for over a year that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. But every time he thought about proposing, something held him back. The ring, for one thing. He'd been saving for months, putting aside money from every paycheck, and he still didn't have enough for the kind of ring he thought she deserved. Something elegant. Something that matched who she was. But it was more than that. He wanted to do it right. Wanted to be standing on equal ground when he asked her. Wanted to feel like he was offering her a partnership, not asking her to carry him. And he was almost there. He could feel it. He just needed a little more time. It was a Friday night in late September when everything came together. Evan was working late, finishing up a presentation for Monday, when Patricia knocked on his office door. He'd gotten his own office 6 months ago. It was small, barely big enough for a desk and 2 chairs, but it was his. And every time he walked in, he felt like he'd earned something real. "You're still here," Patricia said. "Just wrapping up?" "It's almost 8. Go home." "I will. Just need to finish this slide." She walked in and sat down in one of the chairs. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" He saved his work and turned to face her. "What's up?" "I'm retiring." He blinked. "What?" "End of the year. I'm done. 30 years in this business is enough." "Patricia, Wow. Congratulations." "Thank you, but that's not why I'm here." "Okay." She leaned forward, her hands folded. "The company's looking for someone to take over my position, director of operations. And I recommended you." Evan's heart stopped. "You what?" "You heard me. You're ready, Evan. You've proven yourself a dozen times over. You're smart. You work harder than anyone I know, and people respect you. The job's yours if you want it." Are you sure?" "Completely. But I need to know if you're interested. It's a big step, more responsibility, longer hours, but also more pay, more influence, and a real shot at shaping this company's future." He sat back, trying to process. Director of Operations. The position Patricia held. The one he'd never even let himself dream about because it felt too far out of reach. "I'm interested," he said finally. "Good. They want to meet with you next week. I'll send you the details." "Patricia, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. You've earned this, Evan. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She stood and walked to the door. Then she turned back. "For what it's worth," she said, "I'm proud of you. Watching you grow these last 2 years has been one of the best parts of this job." His throat tightened. "Thank you for everything." "You're welcome. Now go home. Kiss your daughter. Tell your girlfriend you love her. And for the love of all that's holy, get some sleep." She left, and Evan sat there in his small office, staring at nothing, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. Director of Operations. He pulled out his phone and called Sienna. "Hey," she said, "you still at work?" "Yeah, but I have news." "Good news or bad news?" "Good, really good." "Tell me." He told her about Patricia retiring, about the recommendation, about the meeting next week. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, her voice thick, "I'm so proud of you. You always say that." "Because it's always true. I couldn't have done this without you. Evan, I know, I did the work, but you gave me the chance to start, and I'll never forget that. I love you." "I love you too. Can you come over tonight?" "I'm already on my way." She arrived 20 minutes later with takeout and a bottle of wine. They ate on the couch, Mia wedged between them, asking a million questions about what a director of operations actually did. "It means Daddy's going to be really important," Sienna said. "He's already important," Mia said, like it was obvious. Evan kissed the top of her head. "Thanks, Bug." After Mia went to bed, Evan and Sienna sat on the couch together, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. "This is really happening," he said. "It is. I keep waiting for someone to tell me it's a mistake. It's not a mistake. You've worked for this. You've earned it. I know, it's just—" He paused, searching for the words. 2 years ago, I was bartending 3 jobs and barely keeping my head above water. And now I'm about to interview for a position I never thought I'd be qualified for. It doesn't feel real." "It's real. You're real, and you deserve every bit of this." He turned to look at her. "Do you ever regret it?" "Regret what?" "Us. Choosing me. You could have had anyone, and you picked the guy who fought you every step of the way." She sat up, her expression serious. "I don't regret a single second. Not the fights, not the fear, not the times you pushed me away, because all of it brought us here. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Even when I was being an idiot, especially then, because you were being an idiot for the right reasons. You were trying to protect yourself. Protect Mia. And I respect that, even when it drove me crazy." He kissed her, slow and deep and full of everything he couldn't say. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you," he said when they pulled apart. Her eyes widened. "Evan, I'm not proposing, not yet, but I will, soon. I just wanted you to know." She smiled, her eyes shining. "I'll be waiting." The interview was on Tuesday. Evan wore his best suit, the one Sienna had helped him pick out for his first promotion, and showed up 15 minutes early. The panel consisted of 3 executives he'd only met a handful of times. They asked hard questions, challenged his answers, pushed him to defend his ideas, and he held his own. He talked about his vision for the company, about the changes he'd make, about the team he'd build. He was honest about his weaknesses, confident about his strengths, and clear about what he could bring to the role. When it was over, the lead executive stood and shook his hand. "We'll be in touch," he said. Evan left the building and called Sienna. "How'd it go?" she asked. "I think I did okay." "Just okay?" "I don't know. I can't tell. They were hard to read." "That's a good sign. If they weren't interested, they would have ended it early." "You think?" "I know. Now stop spiraling and get back to work. You've got this." He wanted to believe her, and for the most part, he did. The call came 3 days later. Evan was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. He ignored it. But when the meeting ended and he checked his messages, his stomach dropped. "This is Robert Chen from Hartman Industries. Please call me back at your earliest convenience." He stepped into an empty conference room and dialed. "Mr. Brooks," Robert said. "Thanks for calling back. I wanted to let you know that the panel has made their decision." Evan's heart was pounding so hard he could barely hear. "And?"
The position is yours. Congratulations. He almost dropped the phone. Are you serious? Completely. We were all very impressed. You start January 1st. We'll send over the paperwork next week. Thank you. Thank you so much. You earned it, Mr. Brooks. We're lucky to have you. The call ended, and Evan stood there, staring at his phone, trying to process. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. Director of Operations. He called Sienna first. She screamed. Then she cried. Then she made him promise to let her take him to dinner to celebrate. He called Linda next. She cried too. Then she told him she'd always known he was capable of great things. And finally, he called Marcus. You did it, man, Marcus said. I knew you would. I couldn't have done it without you. You kept me sane when everything was falling apart. That's what friends do. Now get back to work, Mr. Director, and don't forget about us little people when you're running the place.
Evan laughed. Never.
That night, Sienna took him to the same Italian restaurant where they'd celebrated his first promotion. They sat in the same corner booth, and she ordered the same wine. This is becoming a tradition, she said. I like traditions. Me too. They talked about the new job, about what it would mean, about the changes it would bring. And somewhere in the middle of the conversation, Evan realized something. He was ready. Not just for the job, for everything. He was ready to ask Sienna to marry him. Ready to build a life with her that wasn't about surviving, but about thriving. Ready to stop holding back and start moving forward. And he knew exactly how he wanted to do it. 2 weeks later, Evan took the day off. He told Sienna he had errands to run, which wasn't a lie, and spent the morning at a small jewelry store on the edge of town. The ring he'd been saving for was simple. A thin gold band with a single diamond that caught the light just right. It wasn't the biggest ring in the store. It wasn't the most expensive. But it was perfect. She's gonna love it, the jeweler said. I hope so. He picked up the ring that afternoon and drove home with it burning a hole in his pocket. That night, he asked Linda and Mia for help. I'm going to propose, he said. Mia shrieked. Linda teared up. When? Linda asked. This weekend. I'm taking her to the park, the one where we had our first real conversation. That's perfect, Linda said. What can I do? Mia asked. Just be here when we get back and act surprised when she says yes. She's going to say yes, right? I hope so, Bug. Mia hugged him. She will. I know she will. Saturday was clear and cold, the kind of autumn day that made everything feel sharper. Evan picked Sienna up at noon and drove her to the park. Why are we going to the park? She asked. Because I wanted to take a walk. Is that okay? Of course. I just thought we'd do something warmer. I'll keep you warm. She smiled and took his hand. They walked the path they'd walked dozens of times before, past the fountain that still didn't work, past the bench where they'd sat and talked about everything and nothing. When they reached the bench, Evan stopped. Let's sit for a minute, he said. Okay. They sat, and Evan took a deep breath. Do you remember the first time we came here? He asked. Of course. You just yelled at me in a hospital parking lot. I didn't yell. You kind of did. He laughed. Fair, but you came anyway. Because I cared about you, even when you were being an idiot. I've been an idiot a lot. You have, but you've also been brave and kind and the best man I've ever known. He turned to face her fully. Sienna, when I met you, I was convinced I didn't deserve anything good. I'd spent so long just trying to survive that I'd forgotten what it felt like to actually live. And then you walked into that bar and refused to leave, even when I gave you every reason to. Evan, let me finish. You didn't save me. You didn't fix me. You just stood beside me and refused to let me do it alone. And that changed everything. You changed everything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the ring. Sienna's eyes went wide. I don't have much to offer you, he said. I'm not rich. I'm not perfect. I'm still going to mess up sometimes. But I love you more than I knew it was possible to love anyone. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. So Sienna Vale, will you marry me? Balti. She was crying. full-on sobbing. And for a terrible moment, Evan thought he'd miscalculated. Then she nodded. Yes. Yes, of course. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and she threw her arms around him, kissing him through her tears. I love you, she said. I love you so much. I love you too. They sat there on that bench, holding each other, and Evan felt something settle inside him, something that had been restless and scared for as long as he could remember. He wasn't afraid anymore, not of needing her, not of building a life with her, not of the future they were going to create together. He was just happy, and that was enough. They drove back to Evan's apartment, where Linda and Mia were waiting. Mia took one look at Sienna's hand and screamed, "You said yes!" "Of course I said yes!" Mia hugged her so hard Sienna almost fell over. Linda hugged them both, crying again, and Evan stood back watching his family come together. "Are you going to live with us now?" Mia asked. "Eventually," Sienna said. "We'll figure it out." "Can we get a dog when you move in?" Sienna laughed. "We'll talk about it." That means yes. That means we'll talk about it. Evan walked over and put his arm around Sienna. "Welcome to the family. I've been part of the family for a while now. Yeah, but now it's official." She kissed him. "I wouldn't have it any other way." They got married 6 months later. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends, at the same park where Evan had proposed. Mia was the flower girl. Marcus was the best man. Linda cried through the entire thing. Sienna wore a simple white dress that made her look like something out of a dream. Evan wore the suit he'd worn to his interview because Sienna said it was his lucky suit and he wasn't about to argue. They wrote their own vows. Sienna went first. "Evan, when I met you, I thought I knew what I wanted: success, power, respect. But you taught me that none of that matters if you don't have someone to share it with. You taught me what it means to be vulnerable, to let someone in, to trust that love doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger. I promise to stand beside you, not above you, to support you, not save you, and to love you exactly as you are for the rest of my life." Then it was Evan's turn. "Sienna, you walked into my life when I was convinced I didn't deserve anything good. And you refused to leave, even when I gave you every reason to. You saw me at my worst and stayed anyway. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And you taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. I promise to let you in, even when it's hard, to build a life with you that's based on partnership, not dependence, and to love you fiercely, completely, for as long as I live." The officiant pronounced them married, and Evan kissed his wife for the first time. The reception was at a small restaurant nearby. They danced, they laughed, they toasted to new beginnings. And when the night finally ended, Evan and Sienna drove to the apartment they'd bought together, a place that was theirs, not his or hers, but truly theirs. Mia was staying with Linda for the weekend, giving them time alone. They walked into the empty apartment, and Sienna kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. "My feet are killing me," she said. "Mine too. Want to just sit on the couch and do nothing?" "That sounds perfect." They sat together, still in their wedding clothes, and Evan pulled her close. "We did it," he said. "We did. Are you happy?" She looked at him, her eyes soft. "I'm so happy I don't even have words for it." "Good, because I plan on keeping you that way. You better." They sat there in the quiet, the weight of the day settling around them. And Evan realized that this was what he'd been fighting for all along. Not perfection, not some fairy tale ending. Just this, a life built on trust and love and the willingness to keep choosing each other, even when it was hard. "Thank you, he said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. You made it hard sometimes. I know. But I never wanted to give up. Not once." He kissed her. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that. I already know I won't." Back. 3 years later, Evan stood in the backyard of the house they'd bought together. A real house, with a yard and enough space for everyone, and watched Mia throw a tennis ball for the golden retriever puppy they'd finally agreed to adopt. The dog, Max, named after Sienna's childhood pet, was clumsy and enthusiastic and completely in love with Mia. Linda was sitting on the porch, knitting something that might have been a scarf, but looked more like modern art. She was still in remission, still fighting, still here, and Sienna was beside him, her hand in his, watching the same scene with a smile on her face. "This is nice," she said. "Yeah, it is." "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" "All the time." "Me too." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm proud of us." "Me too." Mia ran over, Max bounding at her heels. "Daddy, can we teach him to play fetch properly? He keeps running the wrong way." "He'll figure it out, Bug. Just give him time." "Okay, but I think he might be kind of dumb." "He's not dumb. He's just a puppy." She ran off again, and Evan laughed. "She's so much like you," Sienna said. "Stubborn and opinionated, determined and fearless." "I'll take it." They stood there together, watching their family, and Evan felt something he'd spent years chasing finally settle into place. Contentment. Not happiness that came and went, always shifting, but something deeper, something that lasted. He'd spent so long believing that needing someone made him weak, that accepting help meant he'd failed. But he'd been wrong. Needing someone didn't make you weak. It made you human. And accepting help wasn't failure, it was trust. He'd learned that the hard way. Through fights and fear and more mistakes than he could count. But he'd learned it, and that made all the difference. "I love you," he said. Sienna squeezed his hand. "I love you too." And standing there in the yard of the house they'd built together, with his daughter laughing and his mother knitting and his wife beside him, Evan Brooks finally understood what it meant to have everything. Not because his life was perfect. It wasn't. There were still challenges, still hard days, still moments when he wanted to retreat into old habits. But he had people who loved him. People he loved back. And a future that felt wide open instead of closing in. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything.